What you just witnessed on WWE Raw wasn't just another sibling rivalry moment, it was the exact moment Jey Uso became everything he once despised about Roman Reigns, and Jimmy's face said it all. The same manipulative tactics, the same toxic leadership, the same family-destroying words that tore the bloodline apart are now coming out of Jey's mouth, and if you think this is just typical WWE drama, you're dead wrong. Let me break down exactly what happened and why this changes everything about the Uso legacy moving forward. Because what Jey said to Jimmy wasn't just harsh, it was a carbon copy of Roman's psychological warfare playbook. The moment started innocent enough. Jimmy was trying to have a genuine conversation about their tag team chemistry and where they stand as brothers in this new era of WWE. But then Jey opened his mouth, and what came out wasn't the voice of the man who stood up to Roman Reigns' tyranny, it was Roman himself speaking through Jey's vocal cords. "Jimmy, you need to understand something," Jey said, his voice carrying that same condescending tone we heard from Roman for years. "I've been carrying this team on my back while you've been worried about having fun out there. When I look at our recent matches, I see one person doing the work and another person just along for the ride." Stop right there. Does that sound familiar to anyone else? Because that's exactly the kind of psychological manipulation Roman used to break down his family members one by one. The same dismissive attitude, the same way of making family feel inadequate, the same twisted logic that puts individual success above family unity. But Jey wasn't done. Oh no, he was just getting started with his Roman Reigns impression. "You want to know why we've been struggling lately? It's because you're still thinking like we're equals out there. But I'm the one who main event WrestleMania. I'm the one who had classic matches with Roman. I'm the one who proved I can hang with the top guys in this company. So maybe it's time you started following my lead instead of expecting me to follow yours." Jimmy's reaction was visceral. You could see the shock, the hurt, the disbelief washing over his face. This wasn't his twin brother talking, this was Roman Reigns 2.0, complete with the superiority complex and the family-dividing rhetoric. And here's what makes this even more infuriating: Jey seemed completely oblivious to what he was doing. He was so caught up in his own perceived elevation and status that he couldn't see he was using the exact same tactics that nearly destroyed their family in the first place. Remember when Roman told Jey he was nothing without the bloodline? Remember when Roman made Jey feel like he had to prove his worth every single night? Remember how Roman's words created such deep psychological scars that Jey literally had breakdowns on television? Well, now Jey is doing the same thing to Jimmy. The psychology behind this is absolutely fascinating and terrifying at the same time. Jey Uso, the man who suffered the most under Roman's manipulation, has now internalized those same toxic patterns and is weaponizing them against his own twin brother. It's a textbook case of the abused becoming the abuser, and it's happening right in front of our eyes. Jimmy tried to respond, tried to reason with his brother, but you could see the walls going up. The same walls that went up between Jey and Roman, the same walls that separated the entire bloodline family. Jimmy said, "Jey, what are you talking about? We've always been equals. We've always been a team. That's what made us special." But Jey shot back with something that should make every WWE fan's blood boil. "Maybe that's the problem, Jimmy. Maybe being equals isn't enough anymore. Maybe it's time one of us stepped up and the other one stepped back." Stepped back? Are you kidding me? This is Jimmy Uso we're talking about, one half of the most successful tag team in WWE history, a man who has been by Jey's side through every triumph and every tragedy, and now his own brother is telling him to step back? The worst part is how calculated this felt. This wasn't Jey having an emotional outburst or speaking in the heat of the moment. This felt planned, rehearsed, like he'd been thinking about this hierarchy shift for weeks. The way he delivered those lines, the way he looked at Jimmy like he was addressing a subordinate rather than his twin, it was chilling. And let's talk about the historical context here, because this makes the situation even more tragic. The Uso twins have been the heart and soul of WWE's tag team division for over a decade. They've held multiple championships together, they've main event countless shows, and they've done it all as true equals. Their success was never about one being better than the other, it was about their chemistry, their connection, their unbreakable bond as brothers. But now Jey wants to throw all of that away because he got a taste of singles success? Because he had some memorable matches with Roman? That's not character growth, that's character assassination of everything the Uso legacy represented. What makes this even more painful is remembering how Jey used to be the voice of reason in the bloodline. When Roman was spiraling into megalomania, when Roman was destroying family relationships left and right, Jey was the one calling him out. Jey was the one saying family should come first. Jey was the one who understood that success means nothing if you lose your soul in the process. So where is that Jey Uso now? Where is the man who stood in Roman's face and said he wouldn't let family be torn apart? Because the person we saw on Raw was a stranger wearing Jey's face and speaking Roman's words. Jimmy's response showed incredible restraint, but you could see the hurt building. He said, "Jey, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this isn't who you are. This isn't who we are. We're the Usos. We rise together or we fall together." And Jey's reply? "Maybe it's time we figured out who we are individually instead of hiding behind what we've always been." Hiding? Did he just say Jimmy has been hiding behind their tag team success? The same Jimmy who has put his body on the line in ladder matches, cage matches, and every other type of brutal encounter WWE could throw at them? The same Jimmy who has been just as instrumental in their championship reigns and legendary matches? This is exactly the kind of revisionist history Roman used to use. Suddenly, shared success becomes individual carrying. Suddenly, partnership becomes dependency. Suddenly, brotherhood becomes a limitation rather than a strength. The crowd could feel the tension, and their reaction was mixed. Some were cheering for the drama, but you could hear others expressing genuine concern about what they were witnessing, because this felt real in a way that transcended typical WWE storylines. This felt like watching a family implode in real time. What's particularly disturbing is how Jey seems to have convinced himself that this new attitude is justified. In his mind, he's not being cruel or manipulative, he's being honest about their respective positions in the company. But that's exactly how abusive behavior gets rationalized. The abuser always thinks they're just telling hard truths that need to be heard. And let's address the elephant in the room. Is this really what Jey learned from his time in the spotlight? That success means putting yourself above your family? That individual achievement justifies emotional manipulation? Because if that's the case, then Roman's influence was even more toxic than we realized. The timing of this confrontation is also significant. This happened just as WWE is building toward major storylines where tag team chemistry could be crucial. If the Usos are fracturing from within, it doesn't just affect them, it affects the entire tag team division and potentially major championship storylines. But beyond the business implications, there's something deeply personal and tragic about watching Jey destroy the very relationship that helped him survive Roman's abuse in the first place. Jimmy was there for Jey during those dark bloodline days. Jimmy was the one constant source of support when everything else was falling apart. And now Jey is repaying that loyalty by making Jimmy feel inadequate and expendable. The most infuriating part of this entire situation is how preventable it was. Jey could have channeled his singles success into elevating both of them. He could have used his experience and growth to make their tag team even stronger. Instead, he chose the Roman Reigns path of division and psychological warfare. And make no mistake, this is psychological warfare. When you tell someone who has been your equal partner for years that they need to step back and follow your lead, you're not just changing team dynamics. You're attacking their self-worth, their identity, their understanding of their own value. That's exactly what Roman did to Jey, and now the cycle is repeating. Jimmy's body language throughout this confrontation told the whole story. You could see him processing in real time that his brother, his twin brother, was treating him like a lesser person. The confusion, the hurt, the dawning realization that something fundamental had changed in their relationship. What happens next could determine whether the USO legacy survives this fracture or becomes another casualty of WWE's ongoing exploration of family destruction. Will Jimmy fight back against this new, toxic version of his brother? Will he try to save Jey from becoming everything they once stood against? Or will he simply accept this new hierarchy and lose himself in the process? The scariest possibility is that this is just the beginning. If Jey has truly internalized Roman's manipulative playbook, then what we saw on Raw might just be the opening salvo in a campaign to completely remake the USO dynamic with himself as the unquestioned leader. This situation exposes something ugly about how trauma and abuse can perpetuate themselves. Jey suffered under Roman's psychological manipulation, but instead of breaking that cycle, he's now perpetuating it with his own family member. It's a sobering reminder that victims of abuse can become abusers themselves if they don't properly process and heal from their experiences. The WWE Universe needs to pay attention to what's happening here because this goes beyond typical wrestling drama. This is a masterclass in how power corrupts, how success can poison relationships, and how the very tactics we condemn in one person can somehow seem justified when used by someone we sympathize with. Jey Uso has become everything he once fought against, and the tragic irony is that he doesn't even seem to realize it. He's so blinded by his own perceived elevation that he can't see he's using Roman's playbook page by page. The question now is whether anyone can save him from himself before he destroys the most important relationship in his life, the bond with his twin brother that has defined his entire career. What we witnessed on Raw wasn't just shocking, it was a fundamental betrayal of everything the USO name has represented. And if this is the direction GUSO is heading, then we might be watching the end of one of WWE's greatest tag team legacies in real time. The transformation is complete. GUSO has become Roman Reigns, and Jimmy USO is now exactly where G used to be, confused, hurt, and wondering where his brother went. The cycle continues, the abuse perpetuates, and another family relationship becomes collateral damage in WWE's endless pursuit of individual glory over collective strength.